Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Leanne Gray. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist and a P21 educator, as well as an author, currently writing my third book to be published by PESI, and it's called Self-Compassion for Teens. My experience training in empathy is rather random and haphazard, while at the same time being intentional and purposeful. So there's that paradox. In 2010, I began studying education very closely because I was noticing an inordinate amount of trauma and suffering coming through my practice with the teens that I was treating and assessing. The more I dug and the deeper I studied, the more I realized that there was an immense amount of educational trauma occurring, and so I coined the term and published about that topic. I didn't want to just stay in the realm of the problem, so I simultaneously searched for ways of mitigating educational trauma and continuously landed on empathy and compassion. It is my wholehearted belief that our empathy deficit is like a cancer infecting our educational system. Our students are being treated with abusive practices, and there are empathic failures to students, teachers, administrators, and families. And so I have directed my efforts to promote empathy mainly in the K-12 educational realm. I am the founder and CEO of the Connect Group, which is a nonprofit organization I founded in 2011 with the mission of connecting communities with innovative educational solutions. Among the educational solutions I've contributed to the global community are mentorship for educators and students across North America. I've also sent empathy toys to educators all over the world as part of our worldwide empathy toy giveaway. And in 2014, I co-designed and co-piloted an educational program called Empathic Education for a Compassionate Nation. And essentially, I enlisted students and their parents as my co-designers in establishing an educational model for them that would be empathic to their needs and compassionate to the trauma they had suffered previously in educational settings. So it was literally, we dove into a problem and we used design thinking to figure out how to solve the problem, and we created some really wonderful educational programs for students in our community. So that program wrapped up at the end of last academic year. And our co-founders did a 10-week human-centered design course with Edwin as a means of deepening our empathic practices and skills, as well as our design skills. And that was an incredible experience. At this point, I'm not really focusing a lot on empathy, unfortunately. It's not by choice, but it's rather by what the market demands. I spent about a year writing a manuscript on self-empathy as the foundation of empathy and compassion, and found that publishing houses were not receptive to empathy. It's not a marketable concept and word at the moment. When that type of perspective is directed towards suffering and we call it compassion, then people want to buy it, publishing houses want to publish it, and so I'm now writing a book on self-compassion for teens, and I devote a large section of it to teasing out my definitions of empathy as I've come to learn it through my discussions with Edwin. My empathy work doesn't stop there. At the end of this month, I will be facilitating an empathy workshop at a design camp in San Diego for educators. I am also a moderator on a weekly Twitter chat for design thinking, and I pop in only to train the educators on empathy and compassion. I'm not there very often. And next October, I'll be facilitating another empathy workshop for educators in San Diego. So that's where I'm at with empathy. I'm a real big supporter and fan of empathy and of Edwin and Leadivai's empathy circles. So my empathy training will always include empathy circles because I'm a way converted fan with Edwin. And that concludes my presentation. I am so delighted to be here with all of you, and thank you so much for the work you do to promote empathy in our culture.
Great. So thank you, Leanne. So we have 10 minutes now for Q&A, and I'll start off by saying you and I are also empathy buddies, which has been very meaningful for me. So we get together weekly and have an hour-long mutual empathic listening time. So that's been really supportive for me, a place to share some of my kind of what's going on for me and kind of be heard about it. So for like with my other question too is what do you think about a curriculum idea, like this concept of which is, you know, what we're looking at here is creating a really comprehensive online curriculum, something like a MOOC or even more in depth than that. What do you think about that whole idea and as a project?
Well, on the first part of your question about the curriculum, I just want to say that you and I have talked about that a lot, and I think I'm holding space with you on that question for the moment, and I'm not really sure just yet, but really open to gathering information with you. As far as the MOOC goes, I was really interested in the conversation that arose earlier about that. I know that there is a very high attrition rate with MOOCs. Students sign up and then they don't complete them, and I think Xuan brought up a really good reason why it could have something to do with the amount of money that's paid for them. On the other hand, I've seen our students benefit from online classes, some of which are paid and some of which are free. And so there is a subset of students that can benefit from it, and I've also seen MOOCs be highly interactive, so that student engagement can be very fulfilling. So I think there might be some middle ground there, and to that end I might want to connect you with one of our colleagues. You know her already, actually, Carol Anglander at Ashland University, because she was invited at some point to do a MOOC of this type. She had to take a short leave of absence from work, but I think she may be back now. And she may be somebody to connect with to see how that curriculum could be developed further in an engaging way online.
And also, let me just add that I look out on the internet, see articles and so forth on empathy, and I read your articles on Huffington Post and what you'd written about what you were doing, you know, and about the bringing in empathy and design. I said, this speaks to me. I feel some kind of resonance, and it really turned out to be that. It's like, you know, I contacted you, and there was like a really great connection. So I could just feel the energy from your writings and so forth, how you were bringing empathy and design, and that, you know, non-authoritarian, that real empathic approach to education and so forth. So that really resonated with me. So really glad to know you and be friends.
Thank you, Edwin. Likewise. Thank you.
I just wanted to say that I loved your presentation, and I thought this is a powerful woman who can really present this stuff in such a meaningful way. I mean, what a marketer for a difficult concept. And selling empathy, yes, unmarketable. Well, you found out, okay, let's sell it as self-compassion. Let's not be blocked. I love your power. Just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And I will be touring the country in the fall beginning to talk about this. So there will be a big empathy component in my self-compassion trainings, but we'll be taking it across the nation in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So, Leanne, I second what Kathy said. I wanted to say that I am really deeply moved by your having named educational trauma in the academic discourse. You know, some of my teachers have been talking about for a long time about how, I think it contributes not only to our empathy deficit, I also think it contributes to our whole hierarchical, competitive, you know, orientation. And I just think what you're doing is so spot on, because it isn't just that schools are a powerful force for conditioning in our culture, it's that the process is an extremely painful one for people. And so I just think it's so important that you're highlighting that. I want to connect with you afterwards, because I have a background in education reform, and there are some initiatives that you may either already be aware of, or you may be, or maybe of interest to you. I worked for a project in Oakland that ended up being one of the projects that was featured in Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence. And
wait, which one?
It's called the Child Development Project, and it was a project of the Developmental Studies Center. Wow. So, but anyway, I think that, again, Shuan is working with young people, you're working in education. I think both of these are just so incredibly key aspects to be doing work in. So I look forward to continuing our conversation. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Rosa. Thank you so much for your feedback. Just not to go too far off topic, but where educational trauma is concerned, one of my more recent articles breaks down the spectrum of educational trauma, which I've elaborated more fully in another manuscript, but you can see my orientation in more detail on that article on Huffington Post. So thank you for your feedback. Appreciate it much. And I do look forward to connecting with you outside as well.
Hey, Leanne, can I? All right. So, thank you. I feel very, very empowered and very touched by all the things you have done. And I also want to, I have so many questions, and I want to hear a lot more about what you have done. So we'll also connect later. Here's one thing that caught my attention when you talk, the empathy toy. So I Googled online and I saw this empathy toy, 21 toys. Is that yours?
That is the empathy toy that I'm talking about, and we shipped out the very first production batch to our educators around the world. So we were part of launching that toy into the market.
It looks very interesting, and I'm totally in love with this idea. So I will look further and then also ask you a few more questions about it. And probably also want to order a set too. So
it would be a wonderful addition. It would be a wonderful addition to your workshop. People really enjoy it a lot, and it highlights the frustration tolerance point when our perspective not match, and that's a really big pain point when it comes to empathic failures.
Yes, and also I also see after playing with this, I will also have a better idea if you could also help with research. So I can't wait to order it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your interest.
Also, I have an additional question. Given this whole larger curriculum project, the empathy workshops for educators that you do you have anything about the design of those that you are able to share?
For the design camp that's coming up, you mean? That one?
No, the empathy workshops that you do with educators.
Okay, that's coming up at the end of this month and in October, and it's modeled after the EdCamp model, where educators come together. It's, again, non-authoritarian, so it's like a conference, but nobody pays, and there isn't a pre-established agenda. So everyone shows up, there's a block schedule, and it's empty. And they'll fill in what they want, and then they'll go and democratically, freely organize into their own units, and then learn together, co-learn in a very democratic way. So this design camp is modeled after that, although what they're doing is they're bringing in experts to facilitate those workshops. So I don't have a plan. All I have is an openness to receive people with empathy. I have a few definitions that I might share if it comes up in dialogue, and then ultimately I will try and engage them in empathy circles, and that will be the entire workshop.
Okay, awesome. So it's a little bit like open space technology, what you're describing, and with the difference that they're going to facilitate that there's going to be people to moderate on hand the breakout groups. Is that correct or no?
I don't know what open space technology is, so I wouldn't be able to say yes or no. But it's people freely organizing themselves around their own interests, but this one has a facilitator available should they want.
Awesome. And if you could please send info about that, that would be great, like a link or something to find out more. Awesome.
There isn't actually a link because it's a public school district that is putting this together, and they're super strained for resources, so the best way to find out about it would be to go on Twitter and look up a hashtag, and it is hashtag, I think, Design Camp SD.
Design Camp SD, okay.
I'm looking for it to make sure.
Sure.
I might have to send that later. I don't have that right now. But I'll look. Oh, yeah. Design Camp SD with the hashtag first. Search that on Twitter, and you'll get whatever info there is.
So we just have, let's say, 30 seconds for Kathy. You were...
Yes. I'd like a turn-taking method. At least it helps me. I find I can't listen if I'm trying to think, oh, when am I going to get my chance? So I'm holding up my finger, and it seemed to have worked.
It did work, yep.
Not any time, but yes, Leanne, you seem to be successful in fundraising in a nonprofit. You are doing things. You are doing things globally. So we need to learn what we can from you because hardly anyone in this field knows how to raise money. So yay for you.
Well, that's the $10 million question, Kathy.
I think that's going to be
out your tricks. Who knows?
That's going to be a whole workshop. I mean, that's going to be a whole topic. Is how do we fund this? So
we better pay her if she gives us that work.